Big ideas, real talk. I'm Sara Press, and this is Nothing Small About Business. Today's guest, you guys, has an incredible resume behind him. What he's done in his lifetime so far is pretty incredible. He was the president of the NBA G League franchise. He turned things around for them. He was the youngest franchisee for Burger King in the company history, went on to own several locations. And he is a business strategist, entrepreneur. He has worked with tons of companies. And now he is the author of this Mind Shift Profit Lift book, which he sent me. And I read it in like a few days because I couldn't get enough of it. It was kind of unlike any other business book that I read. So I now get to call him a friend. We had the most amazing conversation. It lasted a long time, and I did not want to stop talking to him. And I asked him at the end if he'd come on the podcast again, because I think there's so much value that he brings to the table. And I just really can't wait for you guys to hear our conversation, because it was a meaningful one. And it was like packed with tons and tons of value. So enjoy this episode. If you can, please leave a rating and review at Apple Podcasts. It helps spread the word on the podcast and get things going. So I would so greatly appreciate it. Enjoy the episode. All right, Peter Ricciardi, welcome to the podcast.
Wow, Sara, thank you so much for having me. I'm psyched up about this one. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, me too. I have your book sitting right next to me, and I'm going to be referencing this a couple times because I have a lot of questions.
Great.
But before we get into like all the concepts of the book, can you give us like a history on how you got to where you are to be able to write a book with so much value in it?
That's interesting. I'd never been like anybody else. I graduated high school at 16 years old. I graduated from Penn, took my courses in Wharton, and graduated at 19 years old. Got my driver's license in college. So I've never been exactly like the next
Secondary.
guy. I became a teacher at my old high school at 19 years old, turning 20. And at a high school, started teaching and coaching basketball just as I turned 20. And did that and realized that I really deserved an opportunity to be in business. And I became the youngest Burger King franchisee in history, and ended up with 6 different Burger Kings. Enjoyed it, although if you know a lot about franchising, it takes a certain kind of person. I tend to be a creative, and I found myself getting consulting opportunities as a result of what I had learned and what I was learning at Burger King, and started a consulting career off of that. And then it just kind of opened up. And so when I tell you that I've worked with a variety of companies, I have worked with all kinds of companies, big companies, small companies, almost always, though, as an advisor, as a strategist, as a consultant. I've only really had one company in which I got a traditional paycheck. And interestingly enough, that was the NBA, the National Basketball Association, where I spent a year as the president of a G League team. So if you follow the NBA at all and realize the G League's a big deal, I was the president. At that time, it was called the D League. So I've run American Hockey League teams. I've obviously owned my own Burger Kings. I've worked with multiple franchisors on the side of helping people becoming franchisees.
Well, there's a lot of tie between sports and business, right?
A lot. Well, first of all, I ran the business of the sport. I didn't run the sport. When you get to affiliated professional sports, you run the business. The major league team runs the sport. So even though I was very involved with the major league teams, you're doing something entirely different. I mean, you're the guy who's, creating the logos and the brands and selling the sponsorship and selling the tickets and bringing people into the arenas or into the stadiums. So yeah, it's just another version of the kinds of things I've done. And you're a business savant. I mean, you've got all kinds of things that you're going. And plus, you have the best name for a podcast ever. So
I appreciate that. It came to me one day and I was like, I think this is the name, because there's nothing small about it.
I don't think it's the name. I know it's the name. It's really good. It's really good.
Thank you. I appreciate that. It's coming from your background. That I take that with a very strong compliment.
Well, thank you. Thank you. So I've never looked at the world exactly the same way. And I know, off camera, we were talking about, what made me write a book. I was out here in LA, matter of fact, in this same apartment that I'm in right now where my son lives. And he said, Dad, no one quite understands your background, because when you offer them advice or you offer them consulting services, they don't really have a great sense of how did you get here and what gives you the kind of wisdom to feel comfortable helping them. He said, you ought to write a book. Well, since I've been writing my whole life and since I've written a million LinkedIn posts and all, I said, all right, I'll take you up on that challenge. And that was late last summer, early last fall. And so I went heads down for 4 months and wrote a book. Here we are.
Wow. I mean, I love the way this was such a quick read.
On
When you sent me
purpose.
this book, is that what on purpose? Like the chapters are short, so you can read a chapter and then have the time to process it and think about it, as opposed to being like, oh my God, I have 50 more pages before this concept is, finalized.
I don't know if I can get a bigger compliment than the president of Burger King telling me that he could not hand the book to his son, who was becoming a Burger King franchisee. And I said, what do you mean you can't hand the book? Your son can't read it? He said, yeah, he can't read it. I said, what does that mean? He said, there are so many bent pages and so many highlighted phrases and so many underlined pieces, he can't get any flow in the book. I said, guess what? We can send him a book.
We'll send a new copy.
So I sent him a different copy. But I guess that's a kind of a compliment you want to hear, is that people, and I hear it all the time. And one of the reasons I'm in California right now is I never expected this to be the request, but the most common request I've gotten is, Pete, I'm too busy. I don't read books. Make an audio book. So out here in California, that's what I've done for the last 3 days, is create an audio book.
Oh, wow. So it's your voice reading.
Yeah, because
reading
as much as a guy with my lack of patience did not want to create an audio book, you have to, if it's your ideas and your experiences, you can't have a third party read the book. You can't have AI read the book. So
no, and you want to hear, there's something different when you tell your story and you tell all of your experience through your voice. There's something different about that.
And I allow myself to stumble a little bit. I mean, it's a very human experience. I wrote the book. It tells you in the forward, what I'm calling something different than the forward, but in the forward of the book, it tells you that this is just a cup of coffee between me and you. I mean, the one thing I pride myself on is I don't have all the answers. I mean,
if you said you did, I'd be worried, because nobody has all the answers.
The key to life is knowing what you don't know. I've told my kids that forever. Yeah. And so I just have the questions, as you now know, because having read the book, I don't have the answers for you and your husband's practice. What I have, are questions that you probably haven't asked.
These are questions that I never thought about. And what I love about it, it's like flip thinking. It's like, just because you've been doing something a certain way, or that it's always been done that way, don't let that be the straight path that you walk on. Like, flip that around and think of how else you can do it.
The whole book is about counterintuitive thinking. It leads with a quote from a former rocket scientist, literally Grace Hopper, who says, there's nothing worse than the phrase, we've always done it this way. Yeah. Yes. Well, in reality, if you read my book, it's going to be, we've always done it this way, and I'm not going to let you do it that way anymore. I mean, essentially, that's what the book is saying to you. You're going to have to look at your business through a new lens, and one of the questions that you and I discussed earlier was, how do you start writing a book? And how do you start writing a book? I always knew that if I wrote a book, the real title of the book would have been, It's Not About You. Okay. Because, having been a father for 100 years and having been a husband for almost, I've been married twice to two incredible women. My first wife is actually an author who helped me make sure that this book made it into this format. And my wife of the last 30 plus years has been nothing but incredibly supportive and helpful. And along the way, as have my son motivated me, my other two children have really been incredible assets. And along the way, you learn, as you know, it's not about you. It's about how you fit in the world and who you can help.
Who you can help and how you can make them feel. Yeah.
So really, chapter 1 in the book is, in business, it's not about you. When you read the book, that's chapter 1. Yeah. And you know what? Almost every business company or person that I work with starts out with, unintentionally, my business is about me. I mean, so if you're looking at the counterintuitive, most important counterintuitive feature of the book, it's a reminder that, no, your business isn't about you. Nobody cares what your cost is. Nobody cares why you want to be closed on Saturday. They just care about the fact that they want you to be open on Saturday. And you know what? If you think about it,
it's so simple. It really is that simple.
But nobody thinks that way. Nobody possibly says, these people are going to like to be put on hold and listen to this incredibly bad music for the next 90 seconds because that's going to make them happy. And they're going to buy my product because they're happy. Nobody says that.
Right. We had to look at, yeah.
Nobody
It's
says,
looking at the symptoms or the
right.
systems and how can we simplify this to make the patient experience as easy as possible and take away all those barriers. Yeah.
I mean, try to return a product or try to contact Google. You
Yeah.
can't. And
You can't.
Google can get away with it. But I see a lot of small companies trying to steal that blueprint of let's go out of our way and make it hard for the person to find me.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's not about you. It's about them. If they want to find you, don't you want them to find you?
Right. That's so
Obviously,
well said. Amazon does such a great job with that.
Amazon, as much as, Jeff Bezos, we get into conversations about the wealth and billionaires and distribution of wealth and all of which I'm sure I wouldn't agree. Some people wouldn't agree with me, but there's a lot of things that Jeff Bezos does correctly.
Mm-hmm.
So, and one of the things he understands is what matters to you. What matters to you is that something is convenient. What matters to you, as he said, do you want to get it tomorrow? Or do you want to get it and save the world and only have one shipment go out next Monday? And you get to make a choice. Very few people are that way. Most business owners I know is, I would like to give it to you next Wednesday. So guess what? You're getting it next Wednesday.
You're getting it when I get around to it.
That's right.
Okay. That's my next question. There's like so much of this book and so much of what you talk about is mindset. And if you think about it, our whole world's living in our brain, right? So having the correct mindset is so important. Can you tell me a little bit about like from your personal perspective, like was there a huge mindset shift that you had to have? Or is there something you see that small business owners are, tend to think a certain way?
I think it was probably the way I was raised. I lost my dad. Both of my mom and dad were both pharmacists. Like my mom was a pharmacist when there were no women in pharmacy school. My aunt was a doctor when literally you couldn't practice because no man or woman would go to you. I was raised in a family largely of entrepreneurs and largely of professionals. And I lost my dad when I was super young. And I quickly learned, that it wasn't about you, as I said. And so I really learned. And so but the real mind shift, I think, happened because half the book is all of the great things I did in my life. And half the book is all the things I screwed up, and did wrong. And that's why I always say to people, you don't have to read the book and you don't have to follow any of this. You're welcome to make the same mistakes I did. Let me tell you.
Right.
And they can be pretty costly.
So hearing people's mistakes, I think resonates with them so much more than hearing how people were successful sometimes. They're like, listen to how badly I messed up. Listen to what I learned from this. These are all the things I would do differently. Can you share with me like a story you have where either from yourself or somebody you helped?
Yeah. Well, first of all, there's a chapter in the book about personal guarantees. I woke up I was in my late 20s and obviously I'm a young man, but I was in my late 20s.
I was going to say, you're probably still about 25, right?
Yeah. And that was 10 years ago. And I had $2.2 million worth of debt and I was in my 20s. If you put that out to personally guaranteed, if you put that out there today, okay, I don't know, I'll tell you what that number would be. And then all of a sudden, things happen that aren't within your business that affect you. So one of the reminders I make to people is remember that there's a tomorrow. And just, the single thing I probably that made me, if there's one sentence, it's that most of life, like particularly most of what we do in business happens by accident. Why did you do that? Well, I did it because, matter of fact, I did it because I didn't even think about it. Like you were saying earlier about your practice, you just do things, And I look at people all the time and go, so why did you charge $4.95 versus $5.95? And either it's accidental or they've built themselves. And this is a large portion of the book is on pricing and on profit.
Yeah,
obviously
it's funny you mentioning this because this is going into exactly what I want to talk about.
Yeah, because it's called mind shift, profit lift. The mind shift is pretty simple. Not only are you not the number one person your customer is, you're not the number two person. And that's really what separates me from everybody else. Because the number two person, second most important person in your practice are all of the people who touch your clients when you're not there. In your case, your patients when you're not there. Those are the second most important people because I don't care how nice the doctor is or how nice the owner of the company is. If the person who answers the phone doesn't represent your brand, isn't part of your culture, you're toast. I mean, you go from being a chance of being at A to potentially being out of business. And as a guy who's had thousands of employees in my life, I believe it's Seth Godin. I read a lot of business books, but, once we made the decision to call people human resources, and think about that. I mean, these are people. These are people that go home. I had a guy that I worked with, and I had the second highest job. I mean, I ran the day-to-day, but he was the guy that was in charge. And I said, these people in sports have been working 12-hour days for 7 days in a row because we've had 3 games. Some days were longer than 12 hours. I said, here's what I'm going to do. I'm giving them all off July 4th week. We're a hockey team. What does it matter? I mean, we're not going to do any business. I mean, who's going to buy a season ticket on July 2nd who wouldn't have bought it on July 9th?
Right.
Nobody. So I'm going to give them all off. And he said, you're only going to give them all off if that's 1 week of their vacation. We're not giving them the week off. And he understood that legally we could do all that. And I understood, though, that I would have been not only a hero, but I would have done the right thing, which is thank you, guys. And I could remind them next February that, hey, stick around. You're going to get a free week in July for all these nights like tonight.
Right. It shows the appreciation of you value their time, and you value that they're a human and they have a life outside of coming to work every day.
What percentage of businesses do you think reflect that way?
I imagine it's not very many because everyone's probably so worried about the bottom line, not realizing that's such a key component to your bottom line.
Right. And the interesting part about it, and we could go on for days, but one of the conversations in the book is everybody concentrates on attention versus retention. Nothing is more important than keeping your employee. My gosh, in the fast food world historically, having spent a whole bunch of time there, the average time a person might spend is 4 months, 5 months. Can you imagine? It takes you 3 months to get them competent.
Right, the training alone, you're.
So for 3 months, I'm basically losing money, and then I've got them, and they're gone. If I build a culture, Todd Graves, who I refer to all the time in the book, from Raising Cane's, he talks about recognize, respect, and reward. So the second group is employees. And then the third group is if you have an investor. I meet all these people all the time. I mentor all the time that don't worry about their investor. And I'm not saying you should make the investor number one because the investor is going to learn from me. They're third, but they're still ahead of you because it's their money. So people don't want to put themselves in that fourth position. But you decided that when you decided to go in business for yourself. And even if you're not in business for yourself and you're running, the sales for a major company, you're essentially an entrepreneur. You're only as good as the 9 salespeople below you. If they don't deliver, you're gone. But
you're done. Yeah, that's so true. And the decisions are so different than when you place, customer first. And it reminds me of, I think it was in the book as well, but that Ritz-Carlton, Surprise and Delight.
Yes.
And going above and beyond there. And I love unreasonable hospitality. Whole concept.
The unreasonable hospitality is that story, so you know. The story in my book about one park,
11 Madison Park.
11 Madison Park. Thank you.
Yes.
That is the guy who wrote Unreasonable Hospitality. And you don't have to do that, except why wouldn't you do that? And in most cases, we don't do it because we just do what we do because it's.
Right.
This
Keep your head
is what
down,
we do.
Working. You're we need to do X, Y, and Z to get through our day. Okay. You talk a lot about profit. I have to pull up, and I marked it in this book because it was such a good, let's see. There was a quote I like in here. Oh, this talks about the silent killers, actually. This quote. Hope is not a strategy.
Yes.
By Vince Lombardi.
Yes.
And I love that. And I feel like especially newer business owners, hope is what they're riding on.
Well, one of the things I've been working on lately is trying to help potential franchisees of anything. 1 million people, believe it or not, punch in something about, I'd like to own a franchise. A month.
A month?
A month. And that's been going on for years. That's how many either laid off, disgruntled, or excited potential entrepreneurs. But in this world, it's a combination of people who've been laid off, people who want to transition, people who are excited, people who all of a sudden they want to be the next Jeff Bezos.
Yeah.
In California here, everybody wants to be the next Dave's Hot Chicken, which has become a giant national franchise. So, I've had 3 people ask me about that. I've only talked to 6 people about business. So
everyone's I got an idea.
Everybody wants to be the next one, right? And
Mm-hmm.
most of those people are completely uninformed about any of it, what to ask, whether they're being taken advantage of. It's pretty hard to just hop into business. I mean, you know that. There's nothing
Mm-hmm.
small about business. Is that fair to say? When you hop in,
There is nothing small about it. That's for sure.
when you are in, you are in. And as a result, I try to explain to people that profitability does not start with numbers. You know, one of my favorite quotes, that of mine, okay, is that if you treat your customers, your employees, and your vendors like a number, which so many people do, why should we expect our numbers, our bottom line numbers, to get better? I mean, think about that. And how many people do you know when you walk into a store? How many times do you feel like a number?
A lot.
A
Yeah.
lot. A lot. How many times do we treat our vendors like a number? A lot.
A lot.
And guess what? When COVID comes around, they remember when the supply chain gets tight, who treated them like a number, right? And when they remember, that's not a really good thing because you're going to be last on the
There's
list.
no loyalty there then because you don't feel like there's any connection to that business.
And that's why when we talk about retention, it costs you 5 to 6 times, as the studies, as much money to get a customer than it is to retain a customer. And
Okay,
yet,
I love this concept because this is so good. I want everyone listening to like get your pen and paper out because
this one
this
is
key.
ridiculously important, okay? Because many people out there, again, I had pressure on me from above, the partners and others. I don't want any season ticket holder that renews. Why am I giving a commission? Jeff sold them last year. He got his commission.
Mm-hmm.
That's it.
Move on.
Move on. Jeff, go find me a new
Yeah.
one. Get your commission then. Well, guess what? You know how hard it is to find the first season ticket holder or the second? I started teams from scratch. I mean, from scratch in a non-television market. Impossible to find season ticket holders. I got one. The most important commission I should have given to Jeff was to keep him because I had a 90% chance of keeping him or an 80% chance. Finding him, if I could find 30 people, I might get one. So imagine how much work Jeff had to put in to find the one. And we told him, don't put any work in to finding the other guy, because guess what? He's a human being. If you're not going to commission him, that guy's going to either send in a renewal check or he's not. And he didn't. And he didn't. And when you think about that, how often do we do that? Same thing with right now.
Right. You're always looking for like, okay, we need to get the next customer, get more sales. That's so true.
Everybody spends a heck of a lot more money on media and on effort trying to get the next customer.
Is there some psychological reason to that? Because it's not until you explain it that you're like, it makes so much more sense to work your current customers.
It's the science of excitement, you know. I mean, just by definition, we're going to do something entirely different. So why wouldn't we want to, you know, that's the kind of the energy. Yeah, I mean, let's go find a new customer. And I'm all for finding new customers. It's just, if we're going to spend money finding new customers, let's find customers. Now, part of the time, if you're smart on the kinds of things you're doing, if you brand correctly and use social media correctly, it should encourage your existing customers to stay. So when you know how to do that. I was going to ask,
what are these retention? What are things people can do for better retention?
Well, number one, you can make your customer feel like they really matter. Don't make your customer, you know, get taken for granted. So everything from a handwritten note to a phone call to the way you learn about them. In other words, you know, I'll give you a perfect example. You know, I'm in a Taco Bell the other day, and I rarely go to Taco Bell, but I'm in a Taco Bell. I'm the only person in a Taco Bell. The only customer inside. It's more of a drive-through concept now, like most, and third-party delivery, right? And they yell at number 389. Now think about that. How stupid is that?
You're like a cattle call. Like, okay,
how stupid is that? I'm the only guy. What's your name? My name's Pete. Can you give me another initial? Yeah, Pete R. Wouldn't it have made a lot more sense if the guy yelled out, hey, Pete, I got your food. But no, number 389. How often does that happen to you? All
That's
the time.
so funny because it's just like how they do things. And they
do it. Somebody said.
There's no common sense behind it of like, yeah, you're the only guy in there. He could even walk. I love when stores walk around the cash register to hand the bag to you right next to you as opposed to like chucking it over the counter.
There are so many things. If I was in your practice for a day, I would point out 20 things that, and you guys are really good, but I would point out 20 things and go, how can we do that? And well, every other practice does this, or we've been doing this for.
It's just what you do.
It's what you do. It's what you do. And what if we made a rule and the government said you can't do what you did? So for example, if all your customers are coming through the app, there's no more app. Now what do? It forces you to say, oh, what are we going to do? But I better do something different. We don't ever force ourselves to do that. So we just kind of go like this, and then sales kind of go like this, and they kind of go like this. And if you don't pay attention to your existing customers, they go like this. And there's no way in the world you're going to get them back. I was working with a group, because I've consulted some interesting groups, where basically their philosophy was, and I mentioned this in the book, if you raise your prices 10% and you don't lose as many as 10% of your customers, you're okay, right? Because your sales went up 10% and now you lost 8% of your customers. Try doing that for 4 months and you're down, for 4 years, and you're down 35% of your customers. That's not a good place to be. Declining customer counts is never my favorite place to be. Never.
Is that what you were saying? It's so hard to get once a client, patient, customer leaves. It's probably
5 to 6 times
10
as
times
much
harder.
money. Statistically, 5 to 6 times as more cash. In other words, if you were going to buy that person a Christmas gift for $5, you're going to spend $25 advertising.
Wow.
You know what I mean? To get that. Now, if you know what you're doing, there may be a way that you can spend the $25 on your media that also makes your customer feel really good they're a customer. And the best people know how to do that. My son owns a digital agency, and that's one of the things they know how to do, is make the existing customer feel good while attracting a new customer. That's the win-win. Sometimes you'll see, 95% of Toyota drivers buy a Toyota again because they're smart. Because they understand value. Well, I bought a Toyota. Now the guy's telling me that I'm smart and I understand value. Right? I mean, that little
Speaking of value, that makes me think about something that happens a lot where they're like, first-time customers, you get this better pricing or you get this extra thing. And then you're like, okay, great. So now that I'm coming back as a loyal customer, I get to pay more.
Yes.
Like, what? How does that make sense?
Because none of us, and it's one of the things we talk about being in the book, none of us are our own customers. And you say, that's not true. I show up every day. Or when Pete walks into his own Burger King, let me tell you, somebody sees him in the parking lot and they go, Pete's here, Pete's here. Somebody comes out to the dining room and they start cleaning. Somebody does in the back there all of a sudden, and the manager hops out of the office. He's been in the office on a crossword. Pete's here. And I don't see anything. I see, that's not, I had a buddy of mine that said, how's the drive-through service going? And the guy said, 60 seconds, we're pumping him out. He was fifth in line. Nobody knew that. Yeah, nobody knew that because somebody else placed the order. And it was like a minute and a half each time.
He's like, you're lying because I'm in it right now.
Right. So when you get to be the customer, the real customer, like go online, open your website, and determine whether or not
be a secret shopper. Yeah.
Yes. Better yet, try to return something. Get put on hold. Call your place when you know you're busy and get put on hold. And see what happens. See how you do when you're not even, can you hold now? Can you hold now? Can you hold now? Can you hold now?
Right. And they're so busy in the front up. They're so overwhelmed. It's one
and
of
what
the
do you
things
want?
that
And then they get back out and they go, what do you want?
Right. And then you're like, oh my God, now I'm doing 10 things. Like, I don't even know who I called anymore. One of the things that we added was being able to text the practice for appointments, because I noticed that the orthodontist we were going to did that. And I'm like, I hate calling to make the appointment. The fact that we can just text and solidify it, and now I don't have to make that phone call, I will forever be their patient. And so we implemented that in our practice when I noticed something that meant so much to me as a parent, that it goes such a long way if you can make it as easy as possible for people to return. Yeah,
and in your world, with HIPAA and all kinds of things, email and texting and all gets a little bit dicier. You guys have obviously figured that out. But early on, that was the excuse everybody hid behind. Well, we can't give you that kind of service because... No, the real reason you can get away with it is because, I'm stuck to you. My insurance makes me go here. or I'm stuck
Mm-hmm.
to you because you've had my records and I don't have the guts, whatever. But if you ran it like a real business, would you do some of the things that we do? There's just no way.
Right.
There's no way you would. I mean, there's no way. I mean, does somebody really think that, when you walk into a Walmart and there's 17 registers empty and there's a line of 9 people at the one register that's open, that doesn't make a person angry? I mean,
Right.
we don't even understand that when you walk into a restaurant and there's a lot of tables open and they said it'll be a 15-minute wait. I've been in the restaurant world so much of my life. I get it. Translator, we don't have enough servers and cooks to serve you. So we don't want to sit you down and anger you. But the problem is I can see the seats and I don't understand that.
Right. So is that more about the communication, like letting them know?
If you really lay out a restaurant like that, you should lay out a restaurant where they can't see into the dining room.
Oh, interesting. I literally just had this experience this weekend. I was in West Palm Beach, 4 girls. We went to go to dinner and it was on a Monday night, so it wasn't very busy. And we could see all these tables open and they were like, well, we don't really have a 4 top. You guys could sit over there. And we're like, we really want like the lower table, any of the 5 that are like overlooking the water. We'll take any of them. And they were so weird about it. And then they were like, well, our kitchen's also closing. And it was early. They were closing early because they weren't that busy. And they're like, so our kitchen's probably closing in about 30 minutes if you can get your order in right away. I sat down. I was like, you're making me feel like an inconvenience for being in your restaurant
and spending your money.
Busy. I'm like, maybe this
money.
is why you're not busy, because you're treating people like they're an inconvenience.
And up until this year, when Jersey Mike's just beat it, Chick-fil-A is ranked as having the best service in the QSR, quick service restaurant.
They are the nicest people anytime I go
there. You
there.
say that. I walk into a Chick-fil-A. I had just literally, too long a story, but I just had an incident. I walk into a Chick-fil-A and I try to get what I always get, which was I'll take a Cobb salad, but I want the spicy chicken that comes from another salad. Mm-hmm. She said, we're closing in 15 minutes and we can't do that. And I said, are you open? And she said, yes. I said, then you're going to do that. I said,
that's crazy.
I'm paying full price and your sign says open and you tell me you're open. So the answer is go get that other salad or give me both salads and I'll move them myself. I'll pay for one. But I'm not leaving here until I get my salad the right way. You guys are known for your customer service. Please give me some.
Right. Did you hand her your book? Were you like, here you go, read this?
And she said, I don't know if I can do that. And I said, I know you can do that, but if you don't think you can do that, just go get your manager. I'll guarantee you, if he comes over here, not only will you do it, I'll probably end up with the salad for free. I'm not asking anything unreasonable. I'm getting the same item I always got.
Right.
But people, and that's what I mean. That employee is taking a company that was up until this year for like 12 years in a row, whatever, ranked as the #1 customer service company and messing up their mantra. Because one customer, you're one woman who answers the phone or one man who answers the phone, they're messing up the mantra badly and your culture badly. They don't, and how fixable is that? Really hard, because statistically, if you have a really good experience, way, I mean, like a minuscule amount of people tell the world a good experience.
Right.
Compared to the number of, it's like 9 times as many people who have a bad experience tell the world.
And they're the loudest ones. They want everyone to know.
And interestingly enough, in the old days, all they could tell were their friends. Today, with everybody's a publisher. Everybody can tell thousands of people. And so the answer is that you've got to try to make sure that everybody understands. Now, when the customer is not right, that's a different story. But most of the time, the customer better be right. And
one thing, and I don't know if you talked about this in this book, but it just reminded me, like when somebody has a negative experience, because that's going to happen, how you handle it as the business owner can make that person turn it around to be a lifetime of supporter. You can flip that around, and those can be so magical when you can do that properly.
And you can do that. Interestingly enough, if you and I were supposed to have a podcast today, and all of a sudden you had to cancel, the next time we had our podcast, you would be going out of your way to say, "People, what can I do? Can I bring out a second time? Can we?" Because we generally don't want to create a bad experience for someone. And when you create a bad experience for someone unintentionally, and you correct it, you get a lot of points for that. Because there's a whole bunch of people that don't correct it, don't even acknowledge it. And the things your employees will say are pretty wild if your culture is such. If they're not bought in and if you're not rewarding them, I mean, what would you do on your 6th day in a row, 12 hours? You'd be pretty tired. I would like to think that I could say to somebody, hey guys, I feel it. I'm here. First of all, I'm here with you. I've been here every day. I really appreciate what you're doing. Let's go to dinner. Or better yet, you don't want to go to dinner with me. Here's a $50 you've seen me now for 12 hours a day, 6 days in a row. Here's a $50 gift certificate. And everybody's
it's that little
going,
recognition.
Yeah. And you realize that even when it comes to employees, money is not the number one thing that people react to. They react to stuff, thank yous, flowers,
appreciation.
A trip to, for example, if you had a chance of giving somebody $3,000 or a 2-day weekend in Boston that includes da-da-da-da-da, the average person is more motivated by the trip. Do you know why that is?
Why? No. Why is that?
Because people take $3,000 and they pay their bills.
Oh,
and
right,
as a result, their $10,000 credit bill now is $7,000. But it doesn't. You still have a giant
feel as
credit
great.
card
You don't
bill.
get to like enjoy it. Yeah.
But but all of a sudden, you and your husband on my dime are spending the weekend in a great city, and it costs the same amount of money. It's pretty interesting, but that's statistically proven over and over again. People react to back in the day, you could, instead of giving somebody a $5,000 raise, for example, you could have given them a car lease for a year.
Mm-hmm.
And
it goes back to that concept of like, think differently. Like, don't just because everyone does, okay, it's time to do your raise. Like, what are other ways?
You should think about the way everybody does it. Sarah, you should think about the way everybody does it so you can do it different.
Just do the opposite.
Yeah, I mean,
flip thinking.
The whole book is about thinking counterintuitively, and it really is about a mind shift. And the most important part of the book is I'm not asking you to do this stuff to make less money. I'm telling you, you're going to do this stuff and you're going to make more money because your vendor is going to show up for you. Your employee is going to actually try to help you round up the sale to sell more. Your customer is going to immediately recognize. But part of it is people don't even understand what they're selling. Like, have you ever been to a Buc-ee's? Do you know Buc-ee's?
Oh, yeah. I'm in the Midwest, so.
Have you been to one?
I have been to one, yes.
Buc-ee's doesn't sell gas. I mean,
that place is a vibe.
Buc-ee's doesn't sell gas. You go to Buc-ee's, right? You go to Buc-ee's, and next door to Buc-ee's is a gas station that's the same price or 5 cents cheaper, and there's not a person there. You come over to Buc-ee's, so there's 180 gas pumps in the newest Buc-ee's. 180 gas pumps. There's like 12 over here, right? You can be in and out of that guy's gas station in 5 minutes and probably pay less. You got to wait to get the one of 180. But Buc-ee's isn't selling gas. It's not even selling brisket sandwiches. Buc-ee's is selling, you've been driving for hours. You got to go someplace that just wakes you up.
Chill.
Someplace where the kids can go. Someplace where the women can go. I can go to the bathroom and not feel like I'm going to catch a disease. Okay?
Right.
That's what you're buying. That's what you're selling.
I can't tell you how many times I've seen people post that place on their Instagram. And it's like, when else would you ever post a gas station on your Instagram? It's because it's not a gas station.
Because it's not. It's because they understand what they sell. Apple understands what it sells. Apple's selling the future. Apple's making you feel like, no, I'm not yesterday's computer. I got tomorrow's computer. I've got tomorrow's phone. I got tomorrow's features. And even though more people have Samsung and Galaxy throughout the world than Apple, if you're an Apple person though, like I am, they could be giving away Galaxies. I'm not taking them because they've connected me to the future. Yeah. They've connected me. When you go to Disney and you pay an absurd amount of money for a hotel room that would have cost you 40% of it if it was down the road, you go to Disney not because you're on a ride. I'm a classic one of this. I go to Disney because it puts me in another world, right? I mean, that's why I'm there. I'm there to be in another world.
They're the masters of that.
Yeah, and so you are not. If you have an optometry service, you're not just selling. You're an optometry. Is that right?
Optometry. Yeah.
Yeah, you're not just selling, sight and glasses. You're selling peace of mind. You're selling health. You're selling. I walk in, I leave, and I feel like I had a really good experience. I wasn't, and if you can make that experiential as compared to just transactional, but the world makes everything transactional.
Very transactional. That's such a great point. Yeah.
That's
Everyone's
why,
just looking to make that deal, make that sale, and move on. Yeah.
like I wrote this book because I wanted it to feel like this conversation we're having now is exactly how the book reads. Correct? You read it.
Oh yeah, it was such an easy read.
On
I'm like,
purpose.
this is a book I want to go back. Like I mark notes, but I feel like I do need to go back and then reread it. Like this is one of those books. It's more of like a reference guide where you're like, okay, I want to read that again. Okay, how can I apply that? What can I do differently?
One of my previous podcasts, the guy said, yours is a guide for not screwing up. It's how do you go in business and not screw up? That was what he said.
Not mess it all up. Yeah.
How do you not mess it all up? And the answer is, I can show you very specific ways to look at pricing, to look at margins, to look at whether your ideal versus your real cost. I mean, there's real stuff in here. It's not just in any way fluff, because so I'm going to help you with your bottom line with actual tangible ways. But the biggest tangible way is to flip your mindset and to say, okay, I'm shifted now. I get it. This is really about my customer. I'm not it anymore.
Yeah, and you approach every part of it so differently then.
Your life changes completely.
Yeah.
I mean, I want to... As a parent, though, I'm a wonderful parent. It's about your kids. You're not thinking, what's the best thing for me to do at this very moment? The last thing you want to do is end up, going outside in the rain and playing, throwing the softball with your daughter. But it's really not about you. It's about you want to raise a great kid, and that kid's going to remember the mom that went out and threw the softball, not for the softball.
They're going to remember the time, the quality time you spend with them.
And it's the same thing. But how many businesses that you know that approach life that way?
Hardly any. Like, it's not like a million come to mind when I think about it,
I mean, it's so funny because when I wrote the book, people read the first chapter and they go, of course, everything I do is about the customer. Virtually nothing businesses do starts with the customer. I say to you, you're not allowed to make a decision. Okay. Any kind of decision, unless the first question is, did it help or hurt the customer? For example, we want to bring in a new operating system because it's going to help our email look more whatever. Okay. That's not the question, isn't it's going to help us. The first question is, how does it impact the customer? Now, if the answer is it's neutral, doesn't impact them at all, then ignore them. But in most cases, everything we do. Why are you closed on Saturday? Well, because my kid has softball or my kid has whatever. Unless your kid's giving you the dollars, I'm not so sure that's why you're closed. I mean, you should be closed because the customer has said, I'm not interested in coming Saturday.
Like, we don't need your services on Saturday. Right.
Like I just was helping somebody here who thanked me around the corner here. He was trying to build a breakfast and lunch business, and he was closed on Mondays. And I said to him, just so you know, having learned all these things before, when you and I meet, let's say we met in LA, you were flying in, and instead of doing this, just like this, let's have a cup of coffee. I should be able to go, let's go to his place. But the first thing I think about, is he open? You can't be in the is he open category. You can't be in the is he open because I'm going to go to a place that I know is open.
It's funny you say that. There's a restaurant in our town and they're closed, I want to say on Sundays. And it's for whatever reason, every Sunday I think to go to that place and I'm like, oh, they're closed on Sunday.
And I get the fact that they may not be able to duplicate the experience. And since it starts with the customer, but then they got to think about, okay, maybe it's better to be closed on Tuesday. I mean, I don't like that either, but at the same token, people don't start with the customer. I'd like my Sundays off. And again,
at least put the thought into it, right? At least really put the time to really think about it and build the awareness around it and make those decisions based on that, not just based on like how you started 10 years ago doing it.
And in Chick-fil-A's case, who's not open on Sunday, they've really parlayed it into an asset.
They did. They have gone about that in a really good way.
Yeah. And, I'm in the land of Chick-fil-A. The Chick-fil-A down the road does $14 million. Yeah. And the average McDonald's does in the threes, if that gives you any example.
I mean, my kids alone, the number one place they want to go to is Raising Cane's or Chick-fil-A over any other fast food place.
And the funny part about it is everybody's convinced that Chick-fil-A is healthy food.
Right.
Come on.
I mean, their spicy chicken sandwich is pretty damn good.
Yes, but it's fried, number one. And for the longest time, and I don't quote me on this, but for the longest time it had MSG in it, When we were,
Oh, wow.
I don't think it does today, hopefully. But the point of the matter is none of us ever said, let's go look at the ingredients. We just go,
Right.
I mean, I don't think there's a pretty woman in Charleston, South Carolina that is not, which is where I live, that is not convinced that Chick-fil-A is the healthy fast food.
Right. I've seen so many things where they're like, okay, these are the menu items you get for like the healthiest, most protein packed meal. And it's probably Chick-fil-A putting it out there.
Well, you can't, I mean, you and I can manipulate statistics any way we want. Like I just was working with a guy with protein, and you can have protein that's valuable for you, you can have protein that goes right through you. And so, but now the buzzword is protein.
Oh,
And
yeah.
so people throw protein on, but protein isn't necessarily what protein is made out to be. But that's because we know how to market,
Right.
But at the end of the day, I think the gist of the book is think differently. The gist of the book is to simplify. There's nothing, the guy quoted most in the book other than me is Todd Graves. 30 years ago, Todd Graves was, I believe he went to LSU, walked into a bank and said, I'd like to borrow some money. I have a restaurant concept. And they said, what are you going to sell? And he said, chicken tenders. And they said, what else are you going to sell? And he said, chicken tenders. And they said, no, thank you. We're not going to loan money to a restaurant that's trying to sell chicken tenders. Today, they have two items. Do you know what they are?
No,
Two entrees, chicken tenders, and a chicken tender sandwich.
a chicken tender sandwich. Yes.
That's it.
I just ordered that not that long ago. I did not realize there's chicken tenders on there.
How many entrees do you think McDonald's has?
Many. 10?
44 was the last number I saw. 44.
Wow.
And he's got 1.5, I think is a fair statement.
Literally, because it's the same item, just put some bread on top and
40. Who does more volume per unit?
I would guess then the chicken.
Raising Cane's does more.
Is it Raising Cane's? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, because one of the things you learn is simplicity, which none of us like. Everybody goes,
it's counterintuitive.
Yes, we want more sales, sell more stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And the answer is statistically, it's about the customer. If selling more stuff lets you be more efficient, lets your employee do a better job, and lets the customer be happier, then I'm all for selling more stuff. But one of the reasons you go into some of these places and it takes you forever, you're selling more stuff, is because it takes more complexity to sell more stuff. It takes more time to read the menu to figure out what to buy. And it's not like
I don't even know what I want anymore.
It's not like you're even happier. You go to Raising Cane's. Do you want 3 tenders or you want 4 tenders? I mean, so we're not going to make you know how much easier as a guy.
1 sauce or 2? What do you want?
Coming through the drive-through, it's not like, okay, we got one of those weird ones now. This is no, there are no weird ones. And that's the way.
Straightforward. That's such a good point.
And the complexity is crazy. The complexity just puts us in a situation where we're out there as a employer, okay, trying to put out complicated things that the customer doesn't necessarily even care about. I mean, the only reason, do you really sit down and go to McDonald's for the McCafe?
No.
All I know is does on paper, does it lend to sales? Yes. But the question is, did it lend to sales? McDonald's essentially is dropping relative to its competitors. I mean, the all-time classic is you go into Cheesecake Factory, and we all love Cheesecake Factory once a year, right?
Once a year.
Once a year. The menu is...
Their menu is this big?
How much of that is fresh?
Right. And it's like decision fatigue. You're
That's
like,
right.
I don't know. That sounds good. That's kind of sounds good.
And a lot of times the server comes over. Here's the one page for you. This is our value section. Here's our healthy section. Skip the rest of the menu. I mean, because that server is more interested in your happiness, and they know reading 16 pages pisses people off. Pardon my French.
Right. No one has time for that.
No one has time for that. And you don't want that. And the best example I use is when I was a kid growing up, you went to a restaurant and it sold everything. Everything. I mean, it sold Italian, it sold Greek, it sold salads, it sold fish, it sold steak, it sold chicken, it sold everything. And then all of a sudden, you wanted something and you went to an Asian restaurant or a Chinese restaurant. And then all of a sudden you went to a sushi restaurant or a Japanese steakhouse. Now we're to the point where my son, for example, only goes to a sushi hand rolls restaurant. All they make are hand rolls.
Like it's so niche. Yeah.
And they go incredibly well because narrower gets you wider.
Because they can go so deep on it.
Narrower gets you wider. And people don't understand that. They don't understand that took a long time for me to get the counterintuitive nature of that. But the narrower you go, normally the more customers you get. Because, Todd Graves reminds us, you want to be, and so does Seth Godin. I don't know if you've ever read Seth Godin, but it reminds us everything is, what are you elite at? If you're not
reminds
elite,
me of the quote. Yeah. It reminds me of that quote. If you're a friend to all is a friend to none.
That's right. That's right.
It's
the same
very
thing.
Similar to that.
It is. What are you elite at? Well, I mean, McDonald's, used to be elite for their fries. Okay. If you were to ask me as a guy who's been in that world for a long time, McDonald's was most elite for their fries. But the other thing you have to understand.
Heavily salted fries.
The other thing you have to understand is that this is one that really scares people. And that is that I can show you zillions of cases where the best product loses. All the time. I mean, just to give you an example, when I was a Burger King franchisee, all those magazines did surveys, who has the best fast food hamburger? And we alternated with Wendy's, Burger King, Wendy's, Burger King, Wendy's. And McDonald's was doing 2.5 times our volume.
Wow.
Because it's not only like Buc-ee's, right? It's not who has the cheapest gas. It's who has the best all of it, whatever the all of it is.
The best overall experience, yeah.
Relative. And in Buc-ee's, and they're not narrow, but what Buc-ee's is narrow in is they said, you know what? People need an oasis from the drive.
And that's not anything that someone was doing.
The husband and wife.
They want a clean bathroom.
They want a clean bath. They want a place where the kids can go. They want a case where they're overwhelmed for 2 hours. They don't mind being overwhelmed because they've been underwhelmed because they've been on the road for 5 hours and the kids are driving them crazy.
What a great psychological hack to realize that so many people would be in that same mindset going into that place, and they capitalized on that.
That's because if you put yourself in the mindset of a customer, okay, if you say to yourself, I've been driving for 5 hours, what would I like? But we don't. If you got on hold, okay, have you ever gone on hold have you ever called your place at a busy time and gone on hold?
I haven't, but clearly I should.
You will now.
I will.
Maybe you're great. Maybe you're not. I mean, do we really have to have that music? And then there's the ones who want to advertise to you the whole time you're on hold. I'm not only angry.
Oh, gosh. Yeah, those are the worst.
And that's another thing that people do, that we talk about. Do you run your social media as an infomercial? People look at me like I'm crazy. But how many times do you go to somebody's social media and it's just an ad?
It's an ad. Yeah. There's like no value. They're not giving away the value. They think that if they give away the secret sauce, then there's nothing left. So they just tease you with it. But I swear, the more you give away the value and the knowledge you have, the bigger your business can be because people want to work with you.
It's not about every day you got $99 whatever, and tomorrow we're going to do sunglasses and the first visitor gets whatever. Part of it is about, I work with a client in the RV business with my daughter, and all of our posts, okay, we do a portion of what he does, but all of our posts are about the RVing experience. It's to get you pumped up to share the RV experience with you so that you emotionally are ready, because it's a much more fun read. You see in the picture, you got a picture of the beach, you see kids smiling next to the RV. If every post is $2.99 a month, $17, if every post is that, you've run a 24/7 infomercial. And I say to people, you wonder why it doesn't get shared. It doesn't get read.
It's an immediate next. Yeah. Right. There's no value add there. It's just,
and one of the things, one of my real pet peeves, and you stop me when you want, one of my real pet peeves, though, is pricing. There's a lot of the book is about pricing. Yeah, you talk
a lot about pricing in this book, and that is something we're running out of time a little bit, and we'll have to do part 2, maybe part 3 with you.
You got it.
But I would love for you to talk about pricing, because you'd mentioned that a lot in here, and it's underpricing, overpricing. And I found that to be very interesting.
What people don't realize, and probably the first thing I learned when I was taking my courses at Wharton, is that price has very little to do with what you pay. Okay. Everybody goes, well, my accountant says I should have a 25% cost of goods. Yeah. I don't tell the guy how to be an accountant, so shut up and don't tell me how to run a business, okay? And the CFO oftentimes hears from the accountant. Everybody else is running a 23% cost of goods, and you're running a 25% cost of goods. The answer isn't what I'm running. The answer is, am I charging the most I can charge, and the customer's still delighted?
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully awed, but at least happy, or at least satisfied.
And how do you figure that out? Is it through testing?
Some of it is through testing, but some of it isn't very hard to figure out. For example, $5.25 gets me 22% cost of goods. $4.95 gets me a 26% cost of goods. You tell me, should I be $5.25 or $4.95? You're a customer. Can you come up with any reason as a customer I go, well, I'm so excited to pay $5.25? Not at all.
No.
I mean, if you would,
Nope.
Mercedes wouldn't run a car at $79,900. They'd be at $80,000. They're not.
Mm-hmm.
They're not, because they understand. So part of it is be the customer. I mean, I deal with this all the time.
Wait, what would you do? Yeah.
I was working with a restaurant. Every item's under $19. And she has one, she goes out, I want to get the best steak. And she charges $34 for the steak. I said, you realize what's going to happen in the world of social media? Everybody's going to go, and this is years ago, everybody's going to go, boy, a local restaurant here, they got a $34 steak. Now today, $34 doesn't even buy an appetizer, but you get the idea.
Right. Everything's crazy now.
But and everybody wanted to write about the $34 steak. And I said, I got a question for you. Okay. How many steaks did you sell last week? That's a specialty item. We sold 8. And how much did you sell the other stuff? Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of the other things. So I said, okay, so we made 8. If you had charged $24, okay, $10 less, instead of $34, you would have lost $80 in gross sales. And in that case, $80 in bottom line. $80. Okay. Did you get or receive $80 worth of value of that $80? I think you received way more negative value than you got.
Yeah.
And she goes, yeah, but what happened to my food cost then? And I said,
and you're like, that's not what matters. Yeah.
Like people say to me, I want my drive-through to run at, or I want my labor to run at 21%. I mean, if you want to cut your labor, you can just have one less person work your place. You can cut your labor a lot. Is the customer experience as good? If you're not doing things by accident, your answer has to be 100%. No, it's not as good, because the reason they're there is because you're convinced they add to the customer service or they shouldn't be there.
Mm-hmm.
So when you cut them, you just said, you know what? I'm willing to trade, okay, customer service for 2 points on labor. Listen, short term, who's putting more money on the bottom line? You
right,
are.
Immediately you're like, okay, look, this made sense. We saved this much money. But the opportunity cost there, or the future
I always tell people,
profits?
Lots of people work their business down to a number they can handle. I mean, if you want to keep, and the funny part is, once you start dropping sales because of that, with one less person, your labor goes up as a percentage, because your sales
and everyone's
crushed
stressed
you.
out and mad because they're having to take on all these other things without any other benefits.
And your sales are declining because your customers are getting frustrated. The Yelps are declining. And then ultimately, when your number drops, the one less person shift is higher in percentage in labor than you were before.
Mm-hmm.
I give you a clear example. I was working with a company, and it's in the book. Let's just use round numbers. A regular fry is $2. A large fry is $3.75. The large is double the size of the regular.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, it's easy math, right? So which one has a higher food cost percentage? Obviously, the one that's slightly discounted, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because one's running, 20% cost, the other's running at 23.5% cost, whatever the number is, right? And so I walk in and I said, we're at a ski area and nobody buys large fries. You don't even put them out there. You have to ask for them. He said, yeah, what would you do, Pete? I said, what do you mean, what would I do, Pete? I'd sell large fries. He said, they bonus me on how low my food cost is. So every decision I make is about low food cost. And I said, so the fact that I could get $2 more in my pocket and keep $1.75 of that $2 in my pocket means nothing to you.
Like,
and the fact that the customer is skiing, they want a large fry. That's what they do. You overeat when you ski because you know you're going to burn off all the calories.
Right. So you're like, you don't care.
I got a less happy customer. The owner's got $1.75 less from everybody that walks in there. And he said, yeah, well, they bonused me on. So that's why I don't sell bacon cheeseburger. That's why I don't sell.
And you don't realize it. Like, it can be counterintuitive because you're like, oh yeah, we care about food costs. But you're like, but you're missing out on the extra money, even if your food cost is a little bit higher on that particular product.
That's why a large section of the book, and that's why I've gotten the attention, a number of reasons I've gotten the attention of Burger King and Tom Curtis, who's wonderful, the president of Burger King, who's done an incredible job, is for reasons like that, because it's the dollars or the pennies you put in the bank. I call it penny profit. He refers to it as dollar profit. It's the dollars you put in the bank. Okay. You don't get to go, well, my 22% percentage, I'm going to go deposit that tomorrow. No, you're not. And the last time I had a guy with a full service restaurant. His pasta has a 10% food cost. His lobster had a 25% food cost. He told his people to only sell pasta. Push pasta. Well, number one, at a value price lobster at a 25% cost, his gross profit, in other words, the cost of the lobster versus what he paid, that little delta in there, gross profit, nothing else, no labor or anything. What he made on lobster was more than he was charging for pasta.
Oh my gosh. When you explain this to people in this way, are they like, oh my God?
And then 50% of them still ignore it.
Jeez. Because you're so taught of like, okay, what are the percentages? What do these numbers look like without actually understanding them?
For example, if you hired me and I came into your place, I would teach you do you guys sell eyewear?
We do. It's not the focus. It's more of a specialty practice. So we don't focus on eyewear, but we do have it.
But you would be the classic person if I was working with you guys on explaining to you, if I could turn you around and show you how you could make more money with happier customers selling more eyewear and having more people. Where did you get that? We got that at your place. Nobody gives any credit for that. Instead, you're going to go out there and go, well, that thing cost me $60, so I got to charge $180 because we need a 33% markup. So guess what? The customer goes online, buys it for $140, and when you sell one of them, you can feel good that you had a 33% cost of goods, right? I'm not for that. That doesn't work for me. You know what I mean? If it works for you, that's good. It doesn't work for me. Anyway, this has been...
When you really look at it, it doesn't make sense. So...
I guess is it fair to say I look at the world a little different?
Yes, but thank God for that, because it is so easy to go every day just with the same mindset. We're surrounded by the things our algorithm feeds us to even like give us that confirmation bias.
Here's the funny part, though, is you're going to have happier customers, but you're going to make more money.
That's the best part. It's a win-win when you can really flip this around. It is.
And so hopefully you can see it in your eyes. And hopefully your listeners can internalize it. I would love for them to buy the book. It's Mind Shift Profit Lift. You can get it on Amazon. Okay.
Yeah, and I'll include all of this in the show notes as well, so people can easily link it and find it.
More importantly, I love the fact that you brought me here. I love everything you're doing. I love your concept of nothing small about business.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
I love the fact that you got the book and read it right away.
I did. You know? I'm like, I want all the knowledge. And part of the reason I started this podcast is because I was craving conversations like this. So I appreciate you coming on, sharing all of your knowledge. And it like, if you can open yourself to learning and educating and learning from people who have been there and done that, even if their thinking is different than the way you've always done it, I just find so much value in that. So I appreciate you coming on and sharing.
First of all, it's been a pleasure. And secondly, the interesting part of all of it is that been there, done that, and a lot of times been there and screwed it up, because there was nobody in front of you to tell you otherwise.
And those are the best ways to learn when you screw it up.
And yet when we do reconnect, when we talk about franchising, I talk to these people, they just want to send a check and just hop on and I try to
their blinders on.
I try to remind them, everybody wanted to hop on to Quiznos. There were 4,800 Quiznos at its peak. How many do you think there are today?
I couldn't even tell you where the closest one to me is now.
150 from 4,800. That means that 4,650 people basically lost their house, is what that means, essentially.
Oh my gosh.
And so I try to tell people who are considering buying a franchise, call me at least. Let's at least turn around and ask the questions, right? I mean, shouldn't we be asking the questions? I mean,
right? And people don't know what the questions are to ask.
That's the problem. And that's why I try to explain to people that, it's hard. It doesn't matter what you call yourself, a consultant, an advisor, a strategist, a whisperer. I mean,
a guru.
Yeah, I mean, here I am, a wordsmith. I can't figure out the word. The answer is, would you like to screw up, or would you like to at least? Because one thing you learned today is I don't have the answers. You have the answers, but I will raise. If you and I were working together with your husband, I would ask questions. You would have the answers, or together we'd have the answers. And right now, guess what? You don't even have the questions.
Right. We don't even have the questions. That's my favorite part. It's like, if you're willing to ask the questions, bring the awareness, seek out people that have done it before. Like, people are more than happy to share and mentor. And there's so much value in that, instead of just going into things blindly, trying to figure it out.
Well, I start every chapter with a quote, as you well know. And there's some great quotes in there.
There's a lot of great quotes in here.
And to your point, hope is not a strategy. Okay. Yes. Opening with your fingers crossed, or, is not really the best way.
That was me for many, many years. I'm like, this is going to work out because I'm excited about it.
Well, it sounds like it has worked. And a lot of times, we can make mistakes and it works out. I mean, hopefully it does. I mean, obviously there's a lot of successful businesses, but those businesses in many ways, a lot of times can become more successful. And there's a whole bunch of people that don't make it. I mean, I don't want to give you the stats, but lots and lots and lots of small businesses don't make it. Anyway, there's nothing small about business. Okay.
There's nothing small about it. Well, we will thank you so much for coming on. We are out of time, but I could talk to you for hours. I feel like we already have, but I would absolutely love if you would come on again and do a part 2 in the future, all about like the franchise model, because I do feel like that's something people are really interested in.
I would come on at any point, and if you want to just have a conversation about your stuff at any point, I love what you're doing. I love your positivity. I was attracted to your podcast because of your positivity, and also because your appreciation. And let's say this: if I sound, that I'm looking down at businesses, it's the reverse. It's just I've been there. I've been the small business guy, that opens up and you don't know what you're doing, and because you can't, it's not a replicatable experience on your own until you do it. So I would tell you that. If you are out there, don't feel like I'm trying to discourage you. It's not. It's the reverse. I'm trying to encourage you to get as much information as you can, keep your eyes open. And if you can only remember one thing, concentrate on your customers and your employees. Please make sure that they're more important than you.
Beautifully said. Well, thank you so much, Pete, for coming on. And I'll link all of this in the show notes, and I'll link your book in there as well, because I do think it's something that everybody needs to read.
Well, this was absolutely a pleasure. I've been on a number of podcasts, and you're right there at the top. You do a great job.
Oh, that means so much. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for listening to Nothing Small About Business. Make sure you follow this show so you don't miss the value in upcoming episodes. Share this with someone who's growing, and connect on socials for more.